It's Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, and we've got several rounds of storm chances across the plains this week to talk about. And then we're keeping a close eye on an even bigger storm threat as we go into early next week. It's going to impact a very large amount of people here in the state. So let's dive into the details. Starting off by looking way into the future here, early next week, specifically Monday, April 28th, 2025. The Storm Prediction Center is already highlighting an area for potential severe weather out here. Now, this is a 15% probability, which corresponds to a slight risk on their categorical scale, and this stretches from parts of the Central Plains up towards the upper Midwest, including places like Kansas City, Omaha, Minneapolis, Wichita, and St. Paul. Now, forecasting severe weather this far out always comes with a bunch of uncertainties, and stuff's gonna change a lot as we go forward, but the large-scale pattern developing looks pretty concerning. Models are suggesting that an upper-level trough will form over the western United States and begin to eject eastward into the plains around Sunday into Monday. This trough is expected to bring a powerful jet streak, providing the strong winds aloft needed for storm organization, and there's also going to be a lot of diffluence up here, a lot of winds spreading out aloft, and that's going to allow for a low pressure system to form on the surface over here, which then is going to allow for lots of warm moist air to rise up from the Gulf up into that storm system, and you know the rest. You know the story by now, right? This is going to lead to potentially a large severe weather outbreak, and we're talking about large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. All hazards are going to be possible here, but we don't know the specific timing or the fine details about the exact locations that will be impacted just yet. That's something that we've got to refine over time. So tomorrow I'll have another video, the next day I'll have another video, and each day we're going to uncover a new layer, a new piece of information, and by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday, we'll have a very good forecast for you, and then Monday, this will probably be one of those days that we actually go live and we forecast these storms in real time as they form and go across these towns and neighborhoods. All right, let's go back to the future. Today, Tuesday, April 22nd, the Storm Prediction Center has issued another 2 out of 5 slight risk of severe thunderstorms across the southern and central plains. This includes areas like Wichita, Kansas, down through Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, Odessa, and all these places in Texas. And we've got another one of those low pressure systems developing right now east of the Rockies, and that is going to allow for moisture to kind of creep across the surface up into an area where cooler, drier air is moving in, and the combination is going to lead to a bunch of storms today in Texas up through Oklahoma into Kansas, and potentially we're going to be watching some storms today in Iowa and Illinois as well, and maybe down here in the Carolinas back into the deep south. Here's what the radar could look like today around 2 p.m. We are already going to have some storms popping up over here in Alabama, Georgia, up into the Piedmont area, maybe even into southern Virginia. But notice how we've got not a lot going on out here in the plains, even though that's where we have the biggest storm chance. Well, that low pressure system is going to deepen. More moisture is going to get pulled up into that system. It's going to meet up with a dry line. So we're going to have cool, dry air and warm, moist air meeting up right here. And then all of a sudden, likely around 5 or 6 p.m., we're going to see storms explode along that dry line. And we're going to see big hailers and some damaging wind makers pop up from Mexico all the way up into Midland, Odessa, all the way up towards Wichita Falls, maybe even up towards Wichita. We could have some very strong storms tonight. These will be prolific lightning producers. And I do think that the main threat is going to be large hail and some damaging winds. The tornado threat isn't exceptionally high with this one. And also we're going to have some hailers and some wind makers up here in Iowa, up into northern Missouri, into northern portions of Illinois as well. These, same thing, just a little bit less strong than the ones in Texas and Oklahoma. Hail and wind are going to be the main threats. So these are going to be your typical storms that you would expect to see in spring. And this pattern is going to continue into tomorrow, Wednesday, April 23rd. Smaller slight risk area, but a very large marginal risk that goes all the way up into Nebraska, Colorado, and Iowa once again. Here's what the radar could look like as we go into the future. Notice how not a lot's going on until maybe around noon tomorrow. We're going to have some storms popping up here in Kansas and Nebraska. Still doesn't look that impressive, and then bada bing, bada boom. Supercells are likely going to start popping up over here, especially in northeast Kansas. These will be big hail makers, and there will be a tornado chance with these as well. And then we're going to see a bunch of convection that will try to form form into a broken line or a cluster of storms across Kansas down into Texas once again, and this will bring about the chance for some damaging winds and some isolated hail and stuff like that. Once again, the tornado threat here is not exceptionally high, but we can't rule out a tornado or two. So yeah, we're going to have supercells down here again for sure, but I think we could also get a slight risk up here in Kansas as well, just as a result of that multi-cellular cluster of storms popping up and then kind of fanning out, causing a damaging wind event. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then this pattern is going to continue all the way out into Thursday, April 24th, where once again, I think we could see another slight risk upgrade here in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas as we get closer. And this is just another one of those days where we have supercells forming along a dry line. Those will eventually congeal into a damaging wind line of storms and then very quickly dissipate as we go into the overnight and early morning periods on Friday. So very consistent pattern that we're seeing over here. And all of that consistency is going to lead to, you guessed it, excessive rainfall. We're going to have a bunch of rain today over here from southeast Tennessee back into Louisiana. And of course, where we had those supercells forming today in Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to lead to a marginal risk of flash flooding today, a marginal risk of flash flooding tomorrow, and you get 3 days in a row of this stuff. Now we're talking about a slight risk on the day 3, especially in Kansas here. And looking at the day 7 total rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, you can see that corridor from Texas and Oklahoma northeastward through the Midwest, where we are expecting potentially significant rainfall totals. Now this could help the drought, but this could also cause some problems in terms of flash flooding, especially if a lot of this rain falls in a short period of time, which it looks like there is a good chance of that happening. So looking at the bigger picture as we go forward, there's really not going to be a lot of stuff happening out there outside of our persistent storms over here in the plains. Mostly what we're going to be looking at here is slowly but surely some temperatures are going to be cooling down over here in the northwest and along the west coast, and at the same time things are going to get warmer over here in the central and eastern U.S. You can see what's happening here. We've got a pretty big ridge forming, especially in the central and eastern U.S. as we go into this weekend and then into early next week. This is going to lead to some really nice weather for a lot of us. Notice how we're going to have widespread above average temperatures. There will be pockets of cooler air that pop up, especially in the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley and Northeast, but for the most part we're going to be having most days above average, especially once that storm system gets organized and we start talking about our severe weather in the north up here on Monday. Just out in front of that, we are going to be very warm, potentially on Tuesday, April 29th, where we could be 20 to 30 degrees above average in Michigan, and even up there into Ontario. It's going to feel hot out there. It's going to feel like summer as temperatures soar. But of course, as the storm system comes through, it's going to cool us off again. This is a typical spring pattern, and it's usually accompanied by lots of storms. So things are going to get more active as things get hotter. We continue to see the vast majority of the U.S. under an above average temperature outlook from the CPC, at least through May 1st. And that's going to be combined with an above average precipitation outlook. Now, we're going to be a little bit below average over here from Florida up into the northeast, but the vast majority of the central U.S. is going to see lots of rain, at least through May 1st. And that's actually good news for a lot of people because we are experiencing a drought out here. Now, I know we are also experiencing a drought in the northeast and the mid-Atlantic regions. I wish we were seeing more rain over here, but I think we need it a little bit more where we are going to see it out here in Nebraska, South Dakota, down into Texas, maybe even portions of New Mexico will be getting in on above average precipitation over the next week or two. And that's pretty much all the weather talk that I have for you today. We're going to have daily updates as this next storm system comes in, so make sure you turn on notifications and subscribe to the channel. Also, slap that like button, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Woo-hoo.